What do all acids and bases have in common? In this section, we will learn the conductivity of acids and bases. In the first figure, we have a solution of alcohol here, and through this solution of alcohol, we pass electricity. And as we pass electricity, we find that the bulb here does not glow. Why does the bulb not glow? It's because alcohol does not conduct electricity. And why does alcohol not conduct electricity? Because it has no ions. Hence, the bulb does not glow. So we can say that alcohol does not help in the conduction of electricity. The same thing would happen if we replace alcohol with glucose. If we replace this with glucose, we find the same feature. We find that again the bulb does not glow. So we conclude that glucose also does not conduct electricity. Now in the next figure, we remove the alcohol and glucose and replace it with a strong acid. A strong acid means we can replace it with HCl or nitric acid or sulfuric acid, a strong acid, and we find then the bulb begins to glow here, which means this acid helps in the conduction of electricity. Acid conducts electricity. It allows electricity to pass through it. And in the third figure, here we have an acid, but it is a weak acid. We replace it with a weak acid. An example of a weak acid is acetic acid. We call it acetic acid solution. And here again the bulb does glow, but it glows very dimly. It's dim, it does not glow as much. So we can conclude that the acetic acid conducts electricity, but not as well as the strong acid. Now we'll go to a molecule level and explain the behavior of these three substances. Alcohol, glucose, why didn't it not conduct electricity? Why did hydrochloric acid, the strong acid, the bulb began to glow very brightly, but when we use the weak acid, the bulb was glowing dimly. We start with the second case. In the second case, we saw that the bulb began to glow very brightly. And when we put an acid, now take an example of a strong acid HCl. When you add water to it, this HCl, it dissociates into or ionizes into these two ions, H ions and the chloride ions. Now the minute a solution has got ions, it is able to conduct electricity. Now if you see in the figure, you can see very clearly the positive and the negative ions. The positive are moving towards the negative are moving towards the positive. So these ions help in conduction of electricity. So because acids give out ions, they are able to conduct electricity. If you take even nitric acid, it will give out ions. It breaks up to give out ions. If you take sulfuric acid in water, this also gives us ions. And the minute we have ions, they are able to conduct electricity. And that's the reason why the bulb glows. Now using the same logic, you'll definitely know why alcohol did not conduct electricity. Because alcohol does not give us ions. It does not dissociate into ions. It does not ionize into ions when added to water. No ions, so no electricity. So if you see in here, there are just molecules. There are no ions here. Have you seen this? These are just molecules. There is no positive and negative here. So no ions, no electricity. The same case is for glucose. Same thing, if we take glucose in this, the bulb does not glow, because glucose, no ions, does not dissociate to give ions, no electricity, no conduction of electricity. Now when we went to this third figure, here we used acetic acid and the bulb did glow but was not very bright. And the reason for this is this acetic acid, which you will learn the formula CH3COOH, it does break up, but it gives few ions. Few ions, hence the electricity is less or not so strong. Hence the bulb was glowing dimly, because acetic acid is, in the earlier videos you have learned, it is called a weak acid. Because why is it called a weak acid? It gives few ions, and because it gives few ions, there is less electricity. So if I were to ask you the question, why do acids conduct electricity? Because acids are able to give out ions when mixed with water, and these ions help to conduct electricity. The same is the case with bases. Bases also give out ions. They have ions, so they conduct electricity. Like NaOH is a base. NaOH will break up to give you Na plus OH negative. They give out ions. So here also can be used for bases. So bases here will show the same behavior. They will make the bulb glow because they give out ions, and ions help in the conduction of electricity. So glucose does not help in the conduction of electricity. The bulb does not glow for glucose. Here the bulb does not glow for glucose because glucose does not give ions. But when it comes to acids and bases, the bulb glows very brightly for both acids and bases, because they give out a lot of ions which help in the conduction of electricity. But however, if your base or acid is weak, then the bulb does glow but less brightly, because the number of ions given out or dissociated or formed are less.